Hello, and welcome guys back to the channel. This is your host Maverick, and today we are going to be finishing up Steinsgate the original, right? So we are currently on episode 23. So anyways, I decided in the end to go by airing order, right? To be honest, that would have been my original choice anyways, because I like to do things as they have come out to, how should I say it, reconstruct the settings and situations, right? I actually have a major in history, and one thing that we emphasize is that you need to look at it from the perspective of that time, in that kind of context, right? So yeah, that would have been my first choice anyways. The only reason why I wanted to seek out you guys' opinions in regards to chronological order is because I thought, hey, maybe that would be interesting. As it turns out, not that many of you guys think that is a good idea, so okay, I heard you loud and clear. We'll go by airing order. But don't worry, I will be doing the other, sequels and whatnot if right after this one. Unless the ending really irritates me and it completely sucks, which I don't think it will, right? Hopefully it doesn't. But yeah. Anyways, last episode, we finally got back to the original timeline, right? The one where none of this time travel shenanigans ever happened. But then, Suzuha came in a time machine from 2036, and apparently World War III has broken out. So I guess this is a nice callback to the original reference that they were using, the Legend of John Titor, right? In the original mythos, the original legends, that's what he was time traveling for, also to prevent or stop or mitigate World War III. So nice callback there. So how are they gonna do it, right? Obviously they need to do something drastic to change the timeline again, and obviously Okabe is not going to go back to the original timeline. What was it, the Alpha? I guess it's the Alpha, which, by the way, this is kind of confusing, right? Because if this is the original timeline, why is it called the Beta timeline and not the Alpha timeline? It would make more sense if, by the process of inventing the email or whatnot, they'd go to a new world line, which is the Beta world line, right? I don't know. That's just me. But I do think that that makes it overtly confusing. And in fact, that's actually one of the reasons why I keep on emphasizing I don't think that these are the only two possibilities, right? Once you know that you can change timelines, it makes absolutely no sense for it to be a binary system. So who the hell says that you can only have alpha and beta? And yeah, I know some of you guys are saying some other meta knowledge and whatnot, but just purely from just going from what we have right now, even if we have no knowledge of anything else, that still doesn't make any lick of sense to me. That if you're already in the process of being able to travel through different timelines, there has to be more than two. In fact, you would say there would be infinite timelines, as predicted by the multi-world interpretation. Right, so my best guess right now is that they are going to go to a third timeline that is not neither the alpha nor the beta, and that's how they're going to both save Mayuri, prevent World War III, and potentially save Kurisu as well, right? Because I would still like to know who exactly Okabe ends up with in the end, because apparently that is not set in stone yet, just judging by the events that have happened so far. But anyways, that's been enough talk. Let's just get right into the episode. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. And don't worry, I will be watching both episodes 23 and 24. I'm not gonna leave a cliffhanger for you guys. I find 47 billion. Well, if it's in the future, there'll probably be more than 7 billion people on Earth. Uncle? Oh, just... They probably shouldn't have translated to uncle there. No, they don't know about her. Because in this world line, they haven't met. Oh? What? What? Okay, let me mute the music real quick. And since they suddenly decided to this song is such a bomb. You know, I'm assuming that there's some important information that's in this opening, but because the version I'm using mostly cuts it out, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be looking at. I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. It was just like the Okabe to name it the Steinsgate worldline. It's kind of fun. So I'm assuming that this is going to go, you know, really get back to the first episode, right? A real time machine. Yeah, we'll probably get to the you know, what happened You know, some of the weird things that happened in the first episode, including why Karisu said that she already met Okabe. All right. I wonder who's the one that actually stabbed her. But who's the one that sent that mail to the Okabe in the past? There had to be one of them, right? No, don't do it! Hmm. So who exactly is the one who killed her? Don't overthink it, dude. Her dad? Oh, really? Okay. Really? He killed his daughter? That's... Really? That... What? Okay. Nick of time? Oh, so he was... Okay. Seriously? Seriously? I don't... I'm speechless. I am literally speechless at how this turned out. Really? Alright, redo it. Redo it. Like, how ironic is this situation? Like, holy shit. Why don't just go back and do it again? Hello? Oh wait, but... And by the way, how come all of a sudden we have this attractor field convergence stuff? Time machine arms race with by Russia? Well, But you succeeded in the end. Get going, Mayushi. Yeah. Right before he went to investigate the situation. What? Oh. Really? Mm-hmm. Do tell. So the clues lies in those events? So, in other words, mistake a living Carissa for a dead one. Oh, okay. So deceive himself. Damn. Yeah. Okay, let me. You haven't changed. That's a good thing. Okay. Not bad. Alright. And there we go again. Like, what is the meaning of this? I still don't get, like, this scene in particular. Alright. See you guys in a second. Alrighty, so that was episode 23, and that was an interesting decision to make the ending change just with 2 episodes left to go within the season. Quite a nice song, actually. It's called Skyclad Observer, I believe, and it's sang by the same person who sang the opening, Hacking to the Gate, so you can get kind of like the how should I call it, the parallels there with the opening and the ending. And also, the actual lyrics of the song were quite insightful as well. At least it helped me sort of formulate my thoughts on the entire concept of what they're trying to do in regards to time travel and how they're going to solve this entire situation, right? So, first of all, let's talk about the episode a little bit. Definitely, it had a lot of stuff that I was not expecting. Like, I was expecting, actually, okay, let me put it this way, you can believe it or not, but I was actually expecting for the entire situation to be somehow caused by our main characters themselves, right? Either Okabe or Kirisu or whatnot. I was expecting something of that nature to, you know, they reap their own, they reap their own, how should I call it, their own consequences, right? But however, I definitely wasn't expecting one of the main conflict figures to be Kirisu's dad. That was definitely out of the blue. And furthermore, I definitely did not actually expect Kirisu to be killed by none other than Okabe himself. Now that was quite... I have to admit, I completely never thought of that kind of situation. And let's be honest here, that was a little bit ridiculous, right? I think I was supposed, you know, I guess we were supposed to feel shocked and whatnot at that point, but the whole time I was thinking, what? Are you shitting me? right? So yeah. Anyways, um, so yeah, quite an interesting development and quite an interesting solution to the problem as well. And so I guess for most of the this episode, let's talk a little bit more about the actual solution that they came up with, which actually is quite ingenious in its own way. I'm definitely impressed. It covers a lot of bases, and it's much more complete than one would initially think. So, anyways, if I'm getting this correctly, the proposed solution to the problem is for them to do basically entirely the same thing. So they don't change history, they don't change the past. The only thing they change is the fact that Kirisu is actually alive and not dead, right? So apparently what's going to happen is they're going to go back in time and somehow substitute the killed Kirisu for, I don't know, a clone or something, or something that makes others believe that, yes, Kirisu did die there. And whereas in reality, she's whisked away, safe and sound, presumably to the future, and that's where she should be. Otherwise, she'll still sort of mess with the past, right? So, yeah, so, okay, maybe let's just go into this a little bit deeper. So, apparently, the entire thing is that convergence, this attractor field, or convergence or whatnot, occurs because it requires the universe, if you will, to be at a certain state at a certain time. And so that is why Kirisu, or in the past, Mayuri, must die at that point because, well, that's just how it is, right? So what this is basically saying is that it's not the fact that they are dead that's important. It's the fact that the universe exists in a state without them, or that the universe perceives them in a certain way, right? I say universe, in reality it's probably the world, but as I said many times before, everything is interrelated, and if you really want to expand it, you can expand it into the entire universe, right? So, okay, so for arguments, let's just say the world. And so what they're basically doing is that they're not changing the fact that she died, at least within that time period, like within that perspective, within that viewpoint, but instead, in actuality, she is alive in the future. And it kind of reminded me of a few things, right? So first of all, also owing to the ending song, where it talked about 0 being the past, 1 being the future. Well, when I saw that line, the first thing I thought of was actually 0 and 1 in binary code, right? True, false, yada, yada, yada. And so it's really kind of similar in a way to saying, okay, so this is a universe where Kirisu is dead, and this is a universe where Kirisu is alive, and nothing else in between has changed. It's simply that the state of her being alive has changed. And this actually leads to another, I think, kind of an interesting reference, I'm not entirely sure if the writers actually took this into consideration when they were writing it, but this entire situation actually reminds me a little bit of quantum superposition, which is fitting considering that the time travel theory that they're using here is based on quantum mechanics, the multi-world interpretation. So what do I mean by quantum superposition? Probably the most famous example of this would be something called Schrodinger's cat, right? How, in this famous thought experiment, if you have a box and you put a cat in it and you put poison gas in it and whatnot, until you open the box, the cat, at least under quantum mechanics, is simultaneously alive and dead, and you cannot be sure about that until you actually open the box and observe it, right? Now, honestly, Schrodinger's cat was more used to demonstrate the ridiculousness of quantum mechanics, but it's since been sort of like a popular representation of this superposition shenanigans, right? And I feel like it kind of pertains to Kirisu as well, because it's essentially like, until we decide, until Okabe or we as the viewers, as the observers decide, Kirisu could be both dead or alive, right? It depends on the circumstances surrounding her death. And in this case, what they're trying to do is essentially trick or fool the system in a certain way, right? So I thought that was pretty fitting. Maybe I'm thinking too much within this, but I did at least for me, it kind of amused me how a lot of the concepts and themes actually sort of tie together in this kind of way, right? So anyways, going on, as said, you know, the entire point is that nothing can change because of this, what is expected is also for Okabe to, you know, also go through everything that he went through again, or maybe not again, but he's not going to change that past, if you will, right? So everything leading up to this point is necessary, this point in time. So the way he's going to do this is that he's not going to change anything in regards to the past. He actually did go through all those weeks and all those time leaps and did all those things, and that is the way to essentially avoid this convergence, if you will, through some sort of mysterious reason. But anyways, as I said, so what needs to happen is everything needs to stay the exact same, and there's actually a little bit of a bug or hole there, which I will touch on a little bit later, right? And then presumably, eventually, they'll also through this act, you know, change the future as well. And then they're also going to have to do the same thing, potentially do the same thing over again and go back to the past and basically make it a closed loop, if you will. So the same thing repeats over and over again for different iterations of Okabe and all the way on. So an infinite cycle, if you will. Not that he himself is trapped in a cycle, he can continue to move on, though presumably he would also be trapped in a cycle which the Okabe of the future set him in, which is also an interesting discussion, which I'll talk about a little bit later, right? And also, let's see, what else is there to say about that? So yeah, I think that's basically the general idea of the situation. Basically, just find a way to substitute Kurisu, bring her to the present so that she's not going to mess with the past, right? Because for all intents and purposes, you know, she does not exist in that world anymore. And one of the, one of the ways to achieve this is also to bring her physical self away from that world so that she would not, like I said, the universe at that time period needs to be in a state that is Kurisu-less, if you will. Right. So anyways, as I was saying, there are a few things, even though mostly it sounds satisfactory and it sounds logically consistent, there are still a few, I wouldn't quite say holes, but questions that I do have about this entire thing. So first of all, in regards to fooling the system, right? And by the way, this actually finally allowed me to understand the meaning behind the title of the opening song, Hacking to the Gate, right? For the longest time, or ever since I've known of that song, which is quite a famous song, right? Even though I've never seen Steinsgate before until now, I know of that song. It's a very popular anime song. I was always thinking, like, is this a case of bad Japanese grammar, which they're prone to do? Like, what exactly is hacking to the gate, right? Isn't it hacking the gate or something? So apparently what this here means is that hacking is sort of like fooling or working the system or whatnot to the Steinsgate timeline, if you will. So that's why it's called hacking to the gate. So yeah, that's a long-solved mystery. But anyways, as I was saying, so they're talking about fooling the system here, and sort of like fooling the attractor field convergence or whatnot. But then the question remains, like, why is it that is sort of convenient? Don't you guys think that the convergence can actually be fooled in such a way? Internally, I've already sort of explained the situation for them. Like I said, what matters is actually the state of the universe being Kurisu-less, not the fact that Kurisu actually needs to die there. But that is my interpretation of the situation, and why was this interpretation used, right? For all intents and purposes, it could be that the universe just wants this person named Kurisu dead. It doesn't matter if she was taken away and whisked to a different timeline or whatnot. It's just that the universe wants her dead at that point in time. Because don't forget, even if she goes to the future, that still means that she can affect some things in the future, right? So yeah, this is I mean, I guess we could just say, okay, that's just how the mechanics work, that's how the system is, and I guess that would be fine, but as I said, it's a little bit convenient that it works out this way, and honestly, they themselves, no matter the Okabe of the present, Okabe of the future, or whatnot, they would have no idea of knowing that the convergence actually works in this way. Well, I guess they could test, and the future Okabe has 15 years ahead of him, but still, that's my point that I want to make. The second thing is, you know, in the end, somebody still had to start this loop first, right? The first Okabe had to go into the future, build the time machine, and then say, okay, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to build this time machine. I'm going to go into the past, meet my past self, and tell him how to change this whole situation, right? So in essence, that is still changing the past. It's not changing the past that of the current Okabe that we've been observing and been watching, following along for these past 23 episodes. But in terms of the future Okabe, he is still doing something to change the past, right? So why doesn't convergence kick in then, right? I wonder if they're actually going to explain this somehow. And, again, just going back directly to the first question, like, even though Kurisu, I guess, she died in a sense in 2010 July, but still, if you take her to 2010 August and then she suddenly appears back again, then I don't know. There's still a lot of questions I have in regards to how exactly this whole thing works. I wouldn't say it's a plot hole per se, but I'm saying that if it can be explained away, it's also fairly in a fairly convenient way that helps the story, right? Otherwise, at least for right now, I still feel like that whole part needs some working out. I mean, potentially they might work this out next episode. I don't know, but that's one of the other major questions that I have right now as well. And also, building on my second point, which is that you're still changing the past somehow, brings me to point 3, and that is, okay, so I can get that they're trying to substitute the fact that Kurisu is actually dead, and do a fake Kurisu death and whatnot, and basically fool the entire world of that part. Fine, I can buy into that, right? That means that everything else would still remain the same. Okay, but it would still go through the same things that he went through these past 22 episodes and whatnot, and so everything is fine and dandy. It's properly explained, right? However, don't forget that one of the other key things that they need to do is to bring back the thesis, or at least make it so that it doesn't fall into unwanted hands, right? Either Kurisu's dad, or the Russians, or whatnot, or whatever kind of third player, if you will. So the question I have, though, is that if they actually do something like that, like they take the thesis away, doesn't that still change the past in a way, right? You're still changing the past, right? It's still different from the exact same conditions that Okabe went through. Again, going back to butterfly effect, any small thing that you change has huge consequences. So in this current universe, right? Kurisu's dad got the files and went on a plane to Russia, and then they started doing their thing, right? So if I'm understanding this correctly, what they're proposing to do right now is that even though Kurisu, they keep everything in regards to Kurisu the same, they're actually going to take the papers away. And that in itself is already enough to shift the time, at least I feel, is enough to shift the timeline that it doesn't really matter if the rest of the world perceives Kurisu as dead, right? So, I don't know. Again, we'll probably see the actual way that this thing works in the next episode, which should be the last one. I believe episode 25 is the OVA. But these 3 are the questions I have that I feel like are unexplained, and I hope that they will give a satisfactory answer in the next episode. Alright, so this has actually been a little bit too long, but I wanted to talk about this before we get to the actual last episode. And honestly, I was actually going to do the next episode today, but looking at the time, it is way too late. I still got work tomorrow, so I'm going to delay this a little bit, probably till I guess Thursday or Friday, if you will. I wanted to watch these 2 episodes back to back, but I took a little bit too much time thinking through this current theory I have in regards to what's going to happen and in regards to what the proposed solution is. So, anyways, I'll see you guys in a few more days. If there's any flaws in what I've said so far, do feel free to point that out to me. Again, don't spoil it. I'm literally 1 episode away from the ending, but you know, maybe if there's something that was already mentioned before or whatnot, or was already covered before, do let me know. Otherwise, I am looking forward to see how they are going to resolve this entire situation. So, until then, stay tuned, guys, and I'll see you in a while. Bye-bye.